Hello and welcome to StarCastTV, your go-to place for Korean Broodwar spawn matches. My name is Ziggy and I'm here to take you through a belter of a match here between Action and JYJ. It's going to be a TvZ. We do have 2 games to get through, so we're not going to be about the bush. Going to jump straight into game number 1 here in Circuit Breakers. Sporting as a purple Zerg in the bottom right. He's the former KT roster Zerg Action, and his opponent in the bottom left in the orange trunks, the former SKT Terran, he's JYJ. So both players do have that kind of Kesper based experience in that they both played for Kesper teams during the Broodwar era of Pro League. They also switched to Starcraft 2 with their respective teams and also competed in Starcraft 2 for a little while there. But they haven't really had individual success up until this point. They've only been hitting their stride recently in the Afrika era, in like 2018, 2019, with really respectable finishes across both ASL and KSL. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they brought here to the table in this show match. Action, definitely one of the more proactive Zergs we have on the scene. Often likes to go for these pull first openings, and that is exactly what is going to be happening here from our purple Zerg. Meanwhile, JYJ, he's the kind of player that I often attribute with playing a very standard bio-based SK Terran style. You know, not really beating about the bush too much, just playing a straight up stock standard Terran style. He's going to be switching things up a little bit here in that he is going to be going for the refinery. It's not going to be just a barracks expansion. So we'll see how he chooses to follow this up. He is sending his SCV to the correct location, so we're going to get a little bit lucky here with the scouting. Going to confirm that there's going to be Lings moving across the map to try and apply a little bit of pressure onto our Terran player. We'll see how we choose to respond to that. Action, meanwhile, not managing to confirm his opponent's location or spawning location, choosing to go to that top right and then top left. We'll see how quickly the Lings get to the main base of our Terran player. Looks like JYJ is getting ready to wall off against these Lings. Oh, they're actually headed across to the top left, so going diagonally, only just now turning back around to the bottom left to try and find out to try and get to the base of our Terran player. So a little bit of a scouting blunder there by Action, not getting as lucky as JYJ. Meanwhile, it's worth noting that our Terran player is still gathering Vespene gas. So, you know, there's basically 2 things you could go for here, and it seems like it's going to be a second factory with this SCV getting sent to put it down ASAP. Obviously, the other possible follow-up here would have been a 2-port Wraith build, but as we can see, that is not going to be the case. JYJ is in the dark. That is one problem with having lost the early SCV, which he did, and that is, well, basically you are going to be kept in the dark for a very long time, and he's struggling to get another SCV out across the map to try and confirm what Action is going for. We can see that this is going to be a 2-hatch Hydra Blast. He's only at 13 workers here, going for that Hydra speed ASAP. Going to be queuing those up relatively soon as well. We do have a tank on the way, vultures on the way. The question here is, what kind of an upgrade follow-up is he going to be going for? It seems to be that he's going to be going for siege mode here. An incredibly aggressive opening from JYJ, something that I wouldn't normally expect from our orange Terran. As I said, I often, you know, I've always seen him as a slightly more standard Terran player, in that he plays a very stock standard style of TvZ, just going for that bio opening into SK Terran later on. Meanwhile, we do have JYJ moving out. Action is moving out as well, and even though the SCV did scout the move out, JYJ is not responding. I don't think he was looking at the minimap. He's only just now turning around with half his army, well, with the majority of his units. There's one Vulture trying to get into the natural of his opponent, but these Zerg units are going to get cut off from the reinforcements here. One of the Hydras does get picked off. The Lings are sure to fall as well, as JYJ is pulling the trigger and is going to be chasing this army, as the Vultures and the tank are in hot pursuit of the Zerg. The SCV on the other side of the map also confirming that this is indeed going to be a super aggressive build from Action, who is still adding more and more Hydralics to its composition. JYJ meanwhile going for Vulture speed as well, so doubling down on the aggression here, looking to end this game, or going to be looking to end this game ASAP. Got a bunch of Vultures moving across the bottom of the bottom part of the map. Meanwhile, the rest of the army posturing on the high ground over here. It's a bunch of Hydras moving out, a bunch left back at home to prevent this kind of run bite from happening. It looks like these Vultures might get sandwiched here, as the Hydras do come in from the top, but as the speed kicks in, it looks like JYJ is going to fight our Zerg player head on, picking off quite a lot of Hydras here for dirt cheap, as Vultures with speed are going to have an easy time reinforcing this push. We do have siege mode kicking in as well, so Action really wants to hold these bridges over here, but it's not going to be possible against siege tank fire coming in from the back there, as more and more Hydras fall, and it looks like Action might be in hot water here. 19 workers to 24. Meanwhile, JYJ is still on just one base. The Hydras do try and get on top of the Terran army. He manages to clear out all the support for the tanks, so more and more Vultures showing up to try and reinforce the push here. Does he have mines? Yes, he does. So all the upgrades from the machine shop have just kicked in. Well, all of them except for Charon boosters, but you know, you catch my drift. Anyway, this one tank needs to watch out. Can't move too close. The Hydras do try and close the distance here. Only one of the tanks still sieged. Action only so far managing to clear out a bunch of mines here, as the Hydras do try and fight the Terran army head on. The siege tank fire is so powerful in this situation. Oh, this could be a good timing here for Action, as one of the tanks does get unseized. Oh, this mine could be big. He picks off 3 of the Hydras with a good mine connection. 2 more show up from the main base, but it might be a little too late, as the Vultures now get on top of the drones here. And Action is scrambling to defend here. The drones do join the fight, and it looks like our former Katie Rolster Zerg is going to tap out in game number 1 here on Circuit Breakers. So a really quick one, 7 minutes 51 seconds. Not something I've been expecting to see from either of these players. Well, maybe not so much from JYJ. Action, as I've said, one of the more proactive Zergs, really does like to play, really does like to gain the initiative in the early to mid game. So, you know, not exactly what I've been expecting, but nonetheless, well done to JYJ. He's going to win that game number 1 on Circuit Breakers, and I'm going to get game number 2 loaded up in just a minute, so definitely stick around. Hello and welcome back to our spawn match between Action and JYJ. This is game number 2 on In the Way of an Eddy. JYJ managing to pick up the game number 1 on Circuit Breakers in relatively quick fashion with a 2 factory push. We're going to have to wait and see if these two choose to switch things up a little bit here in game number 2. Spawning as that white Zerg in the top right hand corner as the former KT Rolster Zerg, he's Action. And his opponent in the top left in the blue trunks, the former SKT Terran, he's JYJ. And it looks like we are going to have a slightly more aggressive opening from JYJ this time around, as he is sending out a very quick SCV out onto the, well, not quite the center of the map, but he's going to be planting down an 8 racks at the top of the ramp over here. Definitely going to be looking to apply a bit of pressure onto his opponent ASAP. Now, Action did go for a 9-pull opening in game number 1. It doesn't seem like, well, he could still go for it. No, he's not going to be planting down a 9-pull here. So, probably going to be a slightly more economic approach from Action here. Adding more and more drones. Question is JYJ going to be doubling down on his one barracks aggression? Is he going to be going for an eco follow-up after this? Is he going to be going for a gas? There's basically a couple of things he could be going for. Action going for that 12 hatch, squeezing that extra drone worth of mining in before planting the hatchery. Down. We've got a second SCV coming out to try and confirm his opponent's spawning location ASAP. Now JYJ did get lucky in game number 1 with his scouting, managed to confirm that Action was going for the 9 pool on his first try, and it looks like he is going to confirm Action is in the top right with his one SCV. The other SCV also hidden across the map to try and reinforce the attack. We've got the first Marine now coming up. It's going to come across the drone, so Action knows what is up. A bunch of drones coming out to try and defend here. The spawning pool is at 250 HP, so still about 500 left to go. And the question is, where is JYJ going to be planting down his bunkers? We've got the first drones coming out to try and defend here. It looks like JYJ knows that he can't quite engage upon these drones with just 2 Marines. He needs to start microing. He's not doing that, so he's running the risk of getting surrounded here. One of the drones does get focused down by JYJ. Another one getting relatively low here, as one of the Marines does fall. Nonetheless, 3 drones worth of damage has already been dealt, as one of the Marines does get picked off, and JYJ is going to be moving back with his army. He's looking to wall himself off as the barracks is floating back. Meanwhile, we do have a proxy factory coming out from our Terran player as well, so really doubling down on the aggression here. I mean, the problem is there's going to be a sunken in the natural, so I don't think that any vultures could potentially run past. I don't think that, well, the timing is a little bit off for that to happen. So is this going to be tanks again? He's going for a machine shop. He's adding a starport back at home, so this could be vulture drops as well. I mean, if you're going for drops, then you don't necessarily need to proxy this factory, right? Oh, this is going to be a bit of a mistake by JYJ. Losing this SCV, it's not going to be the end of the world, but ideally you don't really want to be doing this, right? You could have just kept it in the main base of our Zerg player. Try and, you know, occupy his attention a little bit more. And we do have those tanks coming out from JYJ once again. So siege mode is sure to follow up as well. Starport is about to finish, so I'm guessing this is going to be a Wraith because he's building tanks. I think Action knows that, yeah, there is no command center being built for our Terran player, so I think Action knows there's some aggression about to come out from our Terran player, and that's exactly how he's choosing to respond. He's adding a Hydra Den, only just now planning down his 3rd hatchery as well, so needs to gain access to units ASAP, as something is surely coming from our Terran player, based on the fact that there's no command center. We've got a lair on the way still. JYJ is following up the tank with a bunch of vultures here, as we do have a Wraith in production for our Terran player as well. The Lynx still don't have speed, it's only just been queued up by the Zerg. This one pooling is going to get picked. Oh, actually, is it going to get picked off? Yeah, it's going to get picked off. As the Wraith does manage to find one of the Overlords. That isn't quite going to supply block Action here, as he's at 23 out of 26. But the push is commencing. We do have one bunker on the way. Oh, the SCV could get picked off by the Sunken. That would have been a massive blunder, as he's got no more SCVs reinforcing the push. Oh, that was key here. A little bit unlucky by Action. One more shot and this SCV would have fallen. But as it seems, the bunker is going to finish here, as the one Sunken is about to fall to the siege tank fire. Meanwhile, we've got another siege tank now joining the fray. We do have the Raid still finding more and more Overlords worth of down, and this is actually going to supply block Action. 28 out of 27 supply. He can't make any more units to try and bolster the defense here, as only one Sunken remains in the natural. 2 siege tanks pummeling away at that defensive structure. We have one more tank about to join the fray here, as more and more bunkers are being planted down by JYJ. Action backed away into his little corner. He's going to pull the trigger now. The Lynx are going to jump onto the Terran army. A bunch of Hydras coming in from the back as well, but it looks like the one siege tank is still going to remain sieged. Only one of them falling. And it looks like JYJ is going to be able to pull a quick one here on Action, as he's leaving one tank on siege. Just poking away at the army of Action, if you can even call this an army. There's only 3, 5, 6 Lings and 2 Hydras left here to defend. One more Wraith shows up. Another tank joins the fray. 2 bunkers worth of Marines still holding the line here. As more and more Overlords are going to fall. Action is going to go for one last Hail Mary attempt at defending his natural, but it is a little too late. 2 tanks still remain, and Action is going to tap out. So JYJ managing to win 2 relatively quick games here in under 8 minutes. 7 minutes 17 seconds for this one, and 7 minutes 51 seconds on Circuit Breakers. That is going to do it for this particular spawn match between Action and JYJ. The turn player manages to win in really convincing fashion with 2 quick builds. So that is going to do it for us today. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.